Do I think that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence will happen in 2022? No, I don't. And I hope I'm wrong, but I think at this point we would be naive as boxing fans if we felt like this fight was going to happen in 2022. I think anybody who thinks that Terence Crawford, because he's a promotional free agent now, is going to walk up to the table to Al Haymon and say, I want the Errol Spence fight. And then Al Haymon gives him the fight, one fight deal with Errol Spence with no strings attached. I think if you think that's going to happen, you're a bit naive. In reality, I believe what happens is Al Haymon says, look, you just did 190,000 buys, pay-per-view buys. So this fight needs to marinate a little bit. We need to build it even more. Number one. Number two, my guy Errol Spence is having a bit of a problem with his eye, so he needs to get back in the ring with somebody else to see how that eye is going to react to punches. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to do a 3-fight deal because you're not Canelo. Canelo is the only guy who can muscle 1-fight deals because he's Canelo. You're Terence Crawford. You just did 190. You need to sign a 3-fight deal with me in order to get the Errol Spence fight on the back end. Because I think if people just think that Terence Crawford is going to walk up to the table and get an Errol Spence fight with no strings attached, I think you're a bit naive. And if you think there's going to be a multi-fight deal with Errol Spence on the front end, you're also a bit naive. Look, Bud Crawford is a boogeyman. He's a boogeyman. But he's also a boogeyman who isn't doing much as far as pay-per-view buys, not on the same level as a Canelo as far as that goes, unfortunately. I wish he was more popular, but that's just the reality of the situation. So Al Haymon is looking at this like risk-reward. Am I going to offer up the biggest guy I have at 147, welterweight, one of the biggest guys in my stable, in Errol Spence, to a guy who I'm convinced Al Haymon knows in his heart that Bud Crawford beats Errol Spence and likely knocks him out? That's what I think anyway. I think Terence Crawford knocks out Errol Spence. I'm on record as saying that numerous times. I think Bud Crawford knocks out anybody at 147. And right now his record 6-0 with 6 KOs at 147. And I don't think Errol Spence is going to be any different for him. But the reason I don't think this fight is going to happen is when you look at Canelo versus Caleb Plant, same situation. Canelo is promotional free agent, can work on 1-fight deals as he goes along. Goes up to Al Haymon, wants the Caleb Plant fight. It took a little time to work out, but the fight happened because, one, Caleb Plant is expendable, unlike Errol Spence. Caleb Plant got a $10 to $13 million deal. He's expendable to Al Haymon. And he offered him up to Canelo, 1-fight deal. And they made a lot of money in the process. The difference here is Errol Spence is not expendable to Al Haymon. So he's going to say fight fighter A, fight fighter B, get to Errol Spence. I wouldn't be mad if it was Crawford versus Ugas and then Crawford versus Spence. And then give Spence his stay busy fight in the process. And then at the same time, Terence Crawford can collect belts. And they can further build up this fight. But Crawford versus Spence is already a big fight. It would already do nice pay-per-view buys. It needs to happen now. But we're naive as boxing fans if we believe it's going to happen next. It's just not going to happen next. Terence Crawford is not going to walk up to the negotiation table with Al Haymon and get either a 1-fight deal to fight Errol Spence or get a multi-fight deal where Errol Spence is on the front end. It's just not going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong, but this fight is not going to happen next. Hope I'm dead wrong. God bless.